I wanted to bring your attention to an issue that, frankly, isn't getting much play in the mainstream media. When news outlets report on the crisis at the U.S. southern border, they focus almost exclusively on the well-being of those attempting to make their way into the United States. The stories are framed in a way to garner sympathy for the plight of the migrants, the economic and social struggles they face in their home countries, and of course, their dangerous trek north. Now, whether it's driven by bias or an agenda, the media is only giving you part of the story. An investigation by the Free Press is shining a light on a growing and, frankly, mostly invisible problem at the border: the toll that the current crisis is taking on the mental health of U.S. Border Patrol agents and a sad rise in suicides amongst their ranks. There were 14 suicides among the agency's 25,000 agents in 2022, and that's nearly double the amount from 2020 before Biden took office, and 3 times the amount recorded in 2014. The suicide rate is also double that of U.S. law enforcement agencies overall. Let me repeat that. The suicide rate among Border Patrol agents is double that of U.S. law enforcement agencies overall. According to a number of agents interviewed by the Free Press, much of the struggle has to do with the horrors that these men and women regularly encounter in the line of duty, everything from dead bodies to extreme cases of child abuse. One veteran agent told the outlet, quote, "We regularly see things that people should never see, like rotting human remains, abuse of every kind, babies and kids dying or dead," end quote. He added that over time, agents have had to shut down a part of themselves just to keep going. Another agent, identified as Juan, recounted one of the many stories of rape on an almost daily basis. Juan told the Free Press, quote, "I had to sit there and listen to a 13-year-old girl from El Salvador tell me how she'd been raped twice by her smuggler. She was traveling with her 9-year-old brother, and the smuggler said he would hurt the boy if she didn't cooperate. So she let him do what he wanted," end quote. Juan told the Free Press, quote, "I had to sit there and listen to a 13-year-old girl from El Salvador tell me how she'd been raped twice by her smuggler. She was traveling with her 9-year-old brother, and the smuggler said he would hurt the boy if she didn't cooperate. So she let him do what he wanted," end quote. Juan went on to say that this is not the job that Border Patrol agents were trained to do. Instead of spending their time protecting America from criminals and potential criminals, they often spend their days processing migrants who have crossed the river, sometimes in groups of 100 or more. According to the Free Press, the agents they spoke to universally believe that the Biden administration has no interest in protecting the border, with some calling their treatment by the White House, quote, "a betrayal." Even worse, at times it seems that the Biden administration appears to be actively working against them. If you'll remember, back in the fall of 2021, several agents on horseback were accused of whipping some Haitian migrants. Now, before any investigation could be conducted, President Biden vowed to make the agents, quote, "pay for their behavior." Ultimately, of course, those agents were cleared of wrongdoing. But President Biden's comments were not forgotten. It demonstrated a clear willingness on the part of the White House to stab agents in the back for cheap political points. Taken together, this has all led to a cratering of morale amongst members of America's Border Patrol, making an already thankless job unbearable for some. Now, look, the point of this story isn't to portray CBP agents as helpless victims. They're not. Instead, I just wanted to highlight the difficult and often dangerous task of patrolling America's southern border and the importance of providing these men and women with the resources that they need to do their job. The federal government, the White House, has a duty, a responsibility, and possibly it is their most important job to do everything possible to ensure the security of U.S. citizens. And we're talking both national security and public security concerns. Frankly, the current administration has failed in this regard. They spent 3 years loosening border security and ignoring the growing problems for both national and public security. They now want to act like they're concerned, in part, frankly, because Democrat mayors are publicly complaining about the strain on their city resources, and in part, because poll numbers show it's a political problem for President Biden ahead of the November election. Now, I don't care what actually spurs them into action, as long as they actually fix this problem for the sake of all U.S. citizens, including the men and women of the Border Patrol. You can't have national and public security without knowing who is entering your country. And for that, I award myself the PDB Situation Report Statement of the Obvious Award for this week.